Hello Indie Warriors, welcome to I Dream of Indie Games. If it's your first time here at the channel, be sure to like and subscribe if you love independent content. Everybody else, welcome back. My name's Old Gamer Joe, and I just got done playing the first 3 hours or so of a very late window 2D Metroidvania release. This is the stylish and bloody Cookie Cutter. Cookie Cutter is coming to us from developers Subcult Joint and publisher Rogue Games, and I think one thing we're all going to agree on is that this game both looks and animates beautifully. Honestly, one of the most satisfying indie games to watch in motion that I've played this entire year. But is Cookie Cutter all style and no substance, or is it baked to perfection? Let's have a closer look. Before we find out who stole the cookie from the cookie jar, don't let the echo chamber steal your honest gaming coverage. Head on over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames and you'll gain Discord access, early ad-free shows, exclusive podcasts, shoutouts at the end of every video we produce, and so much more. Your new indie gaming community is waiting for you. Cookie Cutter begins with a very stylish cutscene that introduces us to the birth of a megastructure that kind of resembles the Death Star from Star Wars. While many have attempted to unravel the mysteries of this bizarre creation, only Victor Garbanzos, one of the many villains in this tale, manages to find any sort of success. After years of being trapped on the megastructure and presumed dead by many, Victor re-emerges with insane new abilities, the likes of which would help him defeat Ken Jennings at Jeopardy. He's also been perhaps sucking back a little bit too much on Grandpa's old cough medicine as he decides to start preserving humans in cyborg bodies, which the game refers to as Denzels. Now with a new army of robot cyborg thingies, Victor has these brainwashed buckets create a new utopia for him, which he rules over for decades and decades. While many try to rise against the Denzels, they are greatly outnumbered. However, ex-engineer Shinji Fallon plans to put an end to this tyranny, heading to the megastructure herself to create the perfect Denzel to fight back. Things get really creepy when the creator falls in love with her new creation, which she goes on to name Cherry, and their relationship becomes a bit unnatural. Long story short, Shinji and Cherry get shot the hell up in the middle of the night by a group of Garbanzos thugs led by Salem Garbanzos, who kinda looks like he got kicked out of Marilyn Manson, and so Shinji is eventually captured. Cherry gets the living shit beat out of her but somehow survives, and you guessed it, time to save your creator and get revenge. For as awesome as this setup was, thus far the story hasn't really capitalized on that epic intro, at least not in the first few hours. You begin in a diner that acts as your hub area, and here you'll meet Raz, who helps you to install components, but more on that in a little bit. This is also where you'll unfortunately be introduced to the game's weaker voice performances.
Function, at least?
Not even remotely. F my life.
I know it's confusing. Just give yourself some time. How about we talk about some good news instead?
Yes, this appears to be yet another example of an indie release that really didn't need voice acting at all, but has it anyways, and it's not great. But anyways, I won't harp on that too much because I've genuinely enjoyed pretty much everything else about Cookie Cutter so far. Now it's worth noting that we were asked to only show a few areas of the game for these impressions, so expect some repeat footage, and also this is still considered an early build of the game, so some of my critiques will likely not apply to the final version. The notes included with the press copy mention that there are a few sound dropouts, which I did encounter, odd enemy behavior also encountered, and a few strange load times, which honestly weren't really a big deal at all, but worth noting. It seems like once the game hits the open market, most of these issues should be ironed out for you. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into some of the gameplay. Cookie Cutter is a Metroidvania at heart, but with psychedelic stylings and a very fast combat system that has a bit of an arcade feel to it. As the game begins, you're free to explore 2 different areas in whichever order you wish. Regardless of which direction you decide to head off to first, you'll get where you need to go eventually. Players will often come across Denzel stations where you can equip new components to Cherry, and you'll also encounter numerous checkpoints. Should you die, you typically won't be punished all that severely. Cookie Cutter's upgrade system is rather simplistic as well, having you pump energy into purchased components in order to make them equipped to your body. You'll gain quite a few new perks for Cherry, alongside various abilities like double jump, which I discovered pretty early on. You will encounter tons of enemies within almost every room you explore, but thankfully the combat is an absolute blast, so you probably won't mind all that much. Get ready to beat your enemies to bits. No, literally, bits are the currency you earn in the game from hitting hidden treasures found across the map, alongside foes you manage to defeat. But how does the combat actually play, Old Gamer Joe, you ask? Well, it's pretty standard fare. You have a quick attack that can easily turn into a combo by repeatedly tapping the button, and while these attacks don't dish out all that much damage, they will help you to regain Void. Void is a separate energy bar located underneath your health that allows you to utilize more powerful attacks. Your secondary weapons, which you'll need to find or unlock, are attached to a different attack button and will quickly consume those Void points. So combat does become a bit of a balancing act, especially when you factor that Void points can also be used to replenish your health. It's best to get somewhere safe to restore lost HP, as Cherry will need to be stationary and recharging leaves her susceptible to taking damage. A handy dodge roll for getting out of the way is also at your disposal, and I really did feel like it was useful. It's quite snappy. By the way, it's highly advised you use a controller for this game if that wasn't already obvious. After you've beaten these bots to a bloody pulp, you'll have the option of performing an execution. Now we're talking. These mini fatalities look friggin' awesome and are extremely satisfying to view in motion. The last thing I want to mention is the parry system. Tapping left bumper at the right moment executes a parry, which works remarkably well. This was a shock to me, someone that's typically awful at parrying, but there's a good timing window here. It's not overly frustrating. But all told, I greatly enjoy the combat engine in Cookie Cutter, and it's perhaps my favorite aspect of the game so far, next to the stunning visuals. Again, more on those in just a second. But that said, the game design around the combat isn't too shabby either. Each area is massive and could easily overwhelm someone if not for a well-implemented map system, and it's really bright, easy to read, generally does a great job of showing you where to go next. I love a good map in a Metroidvania. You kind of need it to not get frustrated. Cookie Cutter does a pretty good job here. It also feels very responsive, it's well designed, and most importantly, the game is just fun so far. I'd say a great deal of the fun comes from that visual design, which is my favorite aspect of the game next to the combat. I can't stress it enough though, it's just a drop-dead gorgeous release. It's been a long while since I've seen an indie animate as well as Cookie Cutter does. My jaw often dropped to the floor, whether it was the fluid-looking combat, the stunning enemy designs and animations, or the well-detailed backdrops. The world of Cookie Cutter is consistently visually striking and always interesting to gaze upon. I honestly can't wait to explore past the initial few areas because already I've seen such creativity in almost every facet of the art direction. This is one of my favorite looking games of the year, which is saying a lot for what's arguably been one of the best years, if not the best year, in indie gaming. The graphical presentation is further heightened by a heavy soundtrack that often features distorted chugging guitar riffs which wouldn't sound out of place on an early Korn album. The game is also quite bassy at times, with kicks and punches sounding great, and Cherry even letting out a few emotional battle cries which fare much better than the fully voiced lines. But yeah, if it wasn't obvious, I've greatly enjoyed Cookie Cutter so far, can't wait to play more of it in fact. If you like Metroidvania games and are looking for a bit of a change up in terms of art direction and overall stylistic tone, I highly recommend checking this one out. They do state that some of the references for this game are Tarantino flicks as well as anime, and you can definitely see that quite a bit. Yes, I did have a few issues here or there, like easily being able to manipulate enemies and the wonky voice acting, but like I said, this was an earlier build, and all told, I can't wait to dive back in. You can enjoy Cookie Cutter for yourself on December 14th of 2023, and I look forward to hearing more of what you think in the comments below. Thank you as always for supporting independent content, patreon.com/idreamofindiegames, like and subscribe, do all of those great things to help us to continue to be able to bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming, and I will see you on the channel.